Welcome to my new little series, Why I Like Houdini. It will be a series of little tutorials, and basically, I really like the logic and concepts of Houdini, and for that, we need to start with the basics. And Houdini's history, um, when the program started, like I think more than 20 years ago, it was very particles based. It was all about points. In other software, you might start with a box when you're like doing quad modeling that makes complete sense. In Houdini, a lot of things are about points. So when I started learning Houdini, I knew that, and one of the things I always wanted to do is copy things onto points. So you get like lots of boxes or lots of spheres that are distributed and scattered around on the surface of something. And one of the things that really annoyed the heck out of me is I couldn't figure out how to orient the objects properly. And yeah, let's dive into Houdini. Here we go. I actually turned my display settings to large so you can really see what I'm doing. And the one of the things we need to do, because we want to use the geometry spreadsheet and the scene view, is we need to split this here, the panes, what they are called. So click on this arrow, split pane top bottom, and turn this one to the geometry spreadsheet. And when you click here in the middle, they actually get switched around. That's a bit nicer. I have this up here. So to start with, we need to create a box. No, we are not creating a box. We are creating a point. So go down here, press the tab key, type geo for geometry, and you get a box. And dive into this. Delete the file node, which you don't need. This is just importing the default geometry. And let's create a point. How to create a point is press tab again, type add, and what you will get is still nothing. You first have to turn on this tick, and then you get a little point. Yours is probably a lot smaller, and it doesn't have a zero there. So let's explain that quickly. If you're over the viewport and press D, you get the display options for the world. And what you need to do is turn the guide font to large. This is one of the things I did. And in geometry, the point size to 10. You don't have to do that. It's just for the tutorial, so they're really humongous and huge, so you can see something. Let's turn that off again. Yeah, this is actually quite interesting here. Here you can turn on the point display while they are selected. Doesn't matter. You can turn on the normal, the point number, and here down here the orientation. We will see what that is later on. So the next thing we need is attributes. So we're not only talking about points. One of the big and really cool concepts is attributes. Every point, every object, every primitive, which is something like a face or whatever, they can have attributes. And let's create an attribute. To do that, press tab again, type ATTRI, and you get a lot of things that have to do with attributes. So you already see attributes are something that is all over Houdini. So let's create one, just a silly one to start with. And actually, we did that already, attribute 1 with a value of 0. But attributes can be named however you want them. Let's call this one names, and maybe give it a string type, and the name of this one is Pixel Peter. Yes, and you could create another attribute and whatever. Yeah, so currently all the points that come in here will get the same name, Pixel Peter. Next, let's create a different attribute. Let's create a color attribute. You can do this with the color node, which the nice feature about it now is that you have this interface where you can easily choose a color. But the other possibility you have is use an attribute create again, and in this case just type in here CD, which stands for color diffuse, and that's now giving me an error. Why is it giving me an error? The type is float, which is fine, but the size needs to be 3 because of RGB. And you could just set a value here. Now you don't have that nice interface that you had here. But basically, if you copy the parameters, put them in here, paste values, then you have the same color. Let's turn this red, and now we have a red dot, which is nice, but I won't get a design award for it. Anyway, what can we do now? Just one point, still quite boring. You can create another point, put the tick on. Now we have 2 points at the same position, also boring. Put one a little bit up. Now we have 2 points. And let's look into the geometry spreadsheet. 2 points, both the same color. Also quite boring. Let's use an attribute randomize. And that's already set to CD. And now we have 2 points of different color. Maybe turn all this off. We have like a green one and I don't know, grayish looking one. Still quite boring. I don't think so. I think actually it's amazing. Sorry. Yeah, why not create a box? Now we have a box, and let's put the focus on it. Turn off the normals for now. But I actually don't want a box. I only want the points of the box. So how do I get rid of all the faces and all the edges? It's Houdini, so obviously it's add again. And the add sub, which stands for SOP, you know, like you have all those SOP, VOP. OP is always operator. S in this case is surface, and surfaces are everything. Again, points, particles, volumes, geometry. It's all within all within subs. And let's create the add, and there you have the option delete geometry but keep the points. So now we have 8 points. Turn on the numbering again, and actually, why not reuse this stuff and just pipe in this now, and let's go down here, and now we have 8 points that are all differently colored, nice randomly colored points. Okay, you might say, what can we do with that? Not much fun yet either. I actually think so. If you hover over this, press the A key and draw into this direction, yeah, then it lays out. Why doesn't it? Yeah, now. Lays out your node graph. So what else do we want? I actually would like to add something which you might be familiar, which is normals. On the box itself, you can add vertex normals, but vertexes are something different from points. More about vertexes in the next video that I'm doing. So I don't want vertex normals, I want point normals. Normal. Let's create a normal. We could actually do this as well with a attribute create node, but then it wouldn't do normals that are dependent on the geometry. So what we get now is vertex normals, but I want point normals, so you have to switch that over. It actually destroys the viewport look of it, but the nice thing is we now have normals that are sort of like pointing outwards in 45-degree angle. And like I mentioned earlier, what I want to do is, on all those points, I want to copy an object. And yeah, let's do that. And for that, we need a copy node. Let's use copy to points. And connect the points to the second input. And for the first input, we need another box. Could use anything, but the box is good for now. Put it in here and actually turn on those vertex normals, because then it looks a little bit nicer. And what do we get? Actually, that looks really cool, I think. Cool object. But the boxes are sort of, yeah, they're orientated right, and in this case it actually looks nice, but it's not even symmetrical. It's sort of strange. So what can we do about that? Normals seem not to be the right thing to use when you want to copy whatever onto points. Houdini actually has to guess where to put it, because it only has one direction and the center. It's missing the up vector and so on. Just a second, I have to blow my nose. I'm turning off the audio for a second. I'm back again. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need that Orient attribute that I talked about earlier. But maybe to show a little bit more what I'm talking about, also create a transform. With that transform, we can turn the original box. So let's rotate it, for example, 30 degrees. Now look what happened here. It gets even more jumbled up. It's not nice. 90 degrees, no, 45 degrees, and let's say 20 degrees. Yeah, it produces nice results, but they're sort of, you can't really control what you're getting. So let's create that Orient attribute. So get rid of the normal, we don't need that. If you shake it off like this, let's actually see what happens without the normal. Should have showed you that earlier on. Let's turn it now. This is what's happening. It's placing boxes always straight in the middle, and If we don't turn it at all, you get like this regular array. But once you start turning it, the boxes don't spin, they just change position. Yeah, they only get the P attribute and are centered on each dot, which might be something that you need at one point, but I find that a lot of times I need to have more control. So let's create the Orient attribute. For that, attribute, create, put it in here. And call it Orient. Orient is a really cool attribute. It's a quaternion, so you need size 4. What is a quaternion, you might ask now. And you also need to set as a default the last value to 1. It's actually not, it's like a rotation, orientation way of in mathematics, and it's way beyond this tutorial. It would be more of a math tutorial. But if you want to learn more about it, there's actually a really cool place that I really like. I'm actually going to show you that. To start with, maybe let's have a look what side effects are saying. This is so cool, this picture. Let's see what side effects are saying in the documentation about the Orient attribute. So go to the website, and there you also have the documentation. The help system in Houdini is ridiculously slow. I sometimes still use it, but the online version is much faster. So let's type in Orient. Oh, there it is already. Press search. You get a lot of stuff. And the interesting one is, where is it? It's not Orient. Let's search for something else. Let's search for Orient Attribute. I don't want that. Yeah, that's that one. That's the one I was looking for. It's actually about particles and dynamics, but that's the Houdini thing. It's all mixed up. So you can use stuff from particles while modeling, and points are always points. It doesn't matter. A particle is a point, and even if you have a geometry and all those the points on the geometry, in other software they are called vertices. They're also points. That's all points. And they can have many different attributes. Houdini has sort of the concept of pre-built-in attributes that the nodes understand, and one of them is Orient. And for particles, you have age, life, ID, force, mass, drag. You see all those attributes are sort of preset or predefined. So this doesn't help you much. What I also really like is another website. It's called CG Wiki. Type in here, Orient. So let's look here, copy, stamp, rotation. That's the one. There's many really, really cool examples. And it's also, look. See. Here. Read this stuff. It's really, really cool. It explains you a lot more about how to create Orient attributes and what they are, and so on. Yeah, This goes way beyond the tutorial. Anyway, CGWiki, great website. He also has a Patreon site, so donate some money to him. This is amazing. It's really, really the best for learning Houdini. Has got a lot of like little snippets and so on. Yeah, great website. I mean, you can still use the Houdini documentation, and you should. It's also great. What I like there a lot is the examples. There's not one here for this one. So, yes, back to Houdini. So here we go. Where were we? Orient. So now that we have that Orient attribute, what can we do with it? Let's turn on this button. And now we need to get rid. Where's my ads up? Here it is. This should be up there. So we have the box, get rid of the faces and edges, which they're actually called vertices and primitives in Houdini. So now we have those points, and they have like a coordinate system attached to them. When we now turn this, it's really cool. It actually doesn't only change the position, it really rotates this object. So the transform node knows about the Orient attribute and calculates new Orients. So watch the Orient while I change this here. See? Really, really cool. Yeah, we have the CD on it here, we have attribute randomize on here. And let's see what happens now when we copy boxes onto this. They stay in position, which is what we want. When we now transform this, every box will be at the right place. Cool. So let's randomize the Orient attribute. Attribute randomize. Orient. And you have to put this to set value, distribution, direction, or orientation. Could we use does a great job, doesn't it? Many ways of doing the randomization. Middle value, whatever. There's enough. You can normalize that. Really cool. Yeah. So basically, I already explained what I wanted to explain in here. The one thing I'm going to show you now as well is, instead of using this boring box, let's use a sphere. You have to turn it to polygon. Go back down here. Yeah, p-scale is another really cool attribute. Attribute create. Call this p-scale. At 0, it's really, really small. Size 3, no, 1. It's just a float. It's for the scale. And now it has the value 1. Now randomize this. Okay. P-scale. And make the maximum value 0.3 and the minimum value 0.1. There you go. Lots of boxes distributed on a sphere in various sizes. Isn't that cool? I think that's cool. And if you don't want boxes on there, but let's say tubes, pipe in a tube. And yeah, that's about it. I think we're done for this lesson. Thanks for watching and bye bye.